Good evening, everybody. How are we? You're very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. I'm not yet at a point where I feel like I can get to the normal intro that we do, but as each day goes by, we get a little bit more used to being back and doing a few things. We'll hopefully get back into the swing of it. But for now, I appreciate you all coming in to have a chat. Obviously, the boys returned for pre-season training today, so we'll discuss that a little bit. We'll talk about the transfer stories that's doing the rounds in the media. Newcastle's interest in Mark Gay, Darwin Nunez, Luis Diaz, Alexander Isak. We'll talk about a young centre-back from Italy the Reds are looking at. And lots more over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Anything that you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours. Put it into the chat and I'll do my best to get to it. Thank you all again, though, for joining me this evening. Appreciate you. That video earlier on was a tough one to record. The first recorded video of being back recording, and I didn't even know what tone, how to approach it. So to those of you that left kind messages, again, thank you. Your help over the last week has been very appreciated in navigating what's been obviously very difficult situation for all of us in the footballing world. So look, I'll let you guys decide where you'd like to kick things off tonight. I guess one thing I'll bring to your attention, and people in our WhatsApp community will have seen this already, somehow MPs or MEPs or MPs, excuse me, in the British Parliament voted against allowing the Premier League to have 10 games broadcast for free. Don't know why, I'm sure there's a reason to it, but Politics UK posted to say MPs in the UK have voted against allowing 10 Premier League games to be broadcast for free. Yes, 86, no, 340. Now, I don't know what the reason behind that was, but, you know, these are the same people who will complain about people with dodgy boxes as well, so I don't know what's going on with that one, but it's not really one for the people, that vote, is it? All I can think of is perhaps if it was on the BBC or something and the BBC had to buy the package, maybe they didn't want taxpayers' money being spent. That's the only thing I can really think of. But either way, not really one for the people, that is it. Right. Good news for Cirkshaft, I guess, said Wes. Yeah, fair play. Decent shout, that. Look, let's start off today with, I guess the situation with Isak is probably the one that you're wondering where we're going with this one again, right? But there have been reports today that Newcastle are willing to offer Isak the number 9 at Newcastle, but there's no guarantee he'll take it. It still feels like there is doubt on the Newcastle side of this about whether they'll be able to keep Alexander Isak. There's talk again of a potential British record offer of £150 million coming their way from Liverpool. And even reports that, again, Liverpool will have to sell Darwin Nunez to fund such an audacious bid. And like we've said all the way through this transfer window so far, I know I'm sitting here, you're sitting at home thinking very unlikely, not really much chance of us getting Isak. But once again, all I can say is I don't know, and it isn't going away. That's all I can say to you, is it's not going away. It's a story that I think we're going to see rumble on and on and on. And even probably more so if Liverpool get to a point where they agree a fee with Napoli or they agree a sale for Darwin Nunez. So again, feel free to discuss that as much as you guys would like, and any questions or anything, put it into the chat. I've been honest with you guys, I don't know anything about Liverpool's striker search from an inside perspective, but you know, again, the usual candidates will be mentioned: Ekitike, Isak, maybe Šeško, although I've not seen much about him at all being linked with Liverpool. We'll talk about Rodrigo, by the way, in a few minutes. It was Graham Bailey of the Boot Room TBR that reported that, and that's been spread far and wide. So we will, of course, move on to speak about him. I guess we'll tie that into the conversation around Luis Diaz. Now, as I said to you guys yesterday, Connor had been away on vacation. Today was his first day back at work, and as you probably notice, or maybe don't, in the background, if you look just behind the European Cup, above it, you will see a Diogo Jota shirt on the wall behind us. We did say to you we would, of course, do something, but you know, I'm not technically minded in that regard, so I had to wait for Connor to come back in, and as you can see, that's up there now. So again, thank you to Connor for that one, and of course to you guys for your suggestions. Right, I've just joined the WhatsApp group. Nice one, Keith. Thank you, mate. Welcome in. Again, we've started posting back on that today. We've kind of obviously been quiet on it over a few days out of respect for the situation that we see ourselves in as a club. And of course, nobody wanted to really talk about anything other than the tragic events of the last few days. What does free to watch matches have to do with the government? All I can think, Peter, and again, I don't know, mate. I wasn't inside the Commons or where that vote was held, but the only thing I could think of is if somehow I had to be funded with taxpayer money or something when they weren't having it, but I don't know is the honest answer, mate. Pro Stock said now also in the WhatsApp group. Well, welcome in. And if anybody else would like to join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp, just scan that QR code there on the screen and that'll bring you right in. Right, so I guess the first question I'm going to ask tonight for a little quick poll is the Isak situation, because I like to gauge your temperature on this one every so often. I want to see how you're feeling about it now. So let's just see. We'll move on to Rodrigo in a second, by the way. Don't worry. I know a lot of people will be excited to talk about him, and I won't lie, fairly excited to talk about it myself. Okay. Where are we going? Right, cool. So question is, do you think Isak is really possible this summer? It's not going away. And there's no judgment for me whatsoever. I can totally understand people going, no, not again. I get it. I totally do. Like, as a fan, I'm kind of not expecting Isak, but what I can say to you is it isn't going away. The money could be there, and it will come down to what happens between him and Newcastle. You even have Newcastle reporters talking about it from a kind of, uncertain standpoint. Apologies there, I had a bit of a hiccup. Would rather get two younger forwards with potential plus legit centre-back than Isak. So, I understand that point, Wes, but for me, if we go back to the start of this window and we talked about what we want Liverpool to do, the best in each position was what was being spoken about. The best in each position is what was being looked for. And he is, what is on the market or even out there in football, the best of what is there probably. So I don't want Liverpool settling and doing what we've done previously, which is bringing in some hopefuls. If we're going to bring in a striker, it has to be the very best that we can get. And if that's Isak, that's who I want. If, we'll talk about the centre-back position as well. And, that's a little bit different because I expect maybe one younger and potentially somebody like Mark Gay if Liverpool do dip their toes in that market, which we have to, having lost Jarell Quansah. But for me, this window has always been about going out there and getting the best that we can. And in that position up top, obviously putting to the side the situation with Diogo, the Darwin situation isn't going to change. We're going to have to improve on that position. And if Isak's possible, I think it would be foolish of us not to. Now, this could go a couple of ways, right? Liverpool are currently looking at the market, seeing other clubs like Chelsea make their play for João Pedro, who's just scored a very good goal in the Club World Cup. You see Arsenal trying to push ahead with the likes of Gyökeres. So Liverpool almost, in some weird way, have a free run at the forwards that may be left. Newcastle are going to be looking for a forward themselves to replace missing out on João Pedro and, of course, Callum Wilson departing Newcastle. So they're going to be in the mix for a striker. So the idea of them losing Isak, I'm sure to their fans probably feels unthinkable. But it just isn't going away. Haris said, Craig, thoughts on Marcus Thuram? Sometimes I watch him and I think he's really good and a powerhouse. Other times I watch him and I'm not so sure. I just don't think he would be the right fit for us. That's all I can say. But I'll be honest with you and say as well that I've said the same thing so many times. I don't know what Arne Slot wants from his striker. I don't know what the thought process is about the way we're going to play next season. So are we going to... there's been reports to say that, yes, Liverpool want a centre forward, but they also want a utility player that can play right across the front line. So, if we got a centre forward on one of those players, then I'd probably say we'd have enough even selling Darwin because, of course, we've still got Jadon Danns who's at the club. We've got the ability to play with a false nine if needs be. If Diaz stays around for what it's worth, I don't think he will. That's just my guess at this situation, and we'll move on to that in a minute. Are we going to get Rodrigo? We will get on to that, mate, in a minute. Truth is, I don't know, but it's been reported, so we'll discuss it. Would I like Rodrigo? Absolutely. Same as I'm sure everybody else in the chat. Rodrigo would be a very good get. He would. I've seen the link to Eze today as well, and I know Miguel Delaney mentioned us kind of in a passing interest, but I very much doubt or would not expect to see Liverpool move for Ibrahima Eze. I just don't think that's going to happen personally. Stevie Boy said, how does one overcome such a tragedy, all the coaches, staff and players? So, together is the answer, Stevie Boy, for me, mate. You overcome it together as a group, one step at a time, one day at a time, one session at a time. It's not a switch that can be flicked, but you would also say that you will probably find a lot of comfort in that dressing room as well, you know, amongst people who are feeling similar to you, who are going through what you're going through. But I think it'll be a galvanizing thing over the course of the season. And today was the first day back for the lads. So, you know, one step at a time. We still don't know, as I sit here now, what's happening with the game at the weekend. There's still no official word on whether that game against Preston's going ahead or not. As it sits, it's scheduled to be on ITV at the weekend, Sunday 3 p.m. But again, we'll have to wait and see what the club decide is the best way forward. Pro Stock said it'll get easier over time. You'll never truly get over it, but day by day it'll get easier. Absolutely. Look, we've all, at some point in our lives, probably experienced loss and death of a relative, a friend, a loved one. It never goes away, but life continues to move on. And what I found very, very difficult to kind of summarize is whatever we decide to do right now as a football club, whether we decide to take a pause in the market, whether we decide to delay training a bit, whatever we do, that's fine. But what we have to, I guess, accept and acknowledge is that football isn't going to stand still. So with all the best intentions in the world for looking after our boys, for being together, for taking our time, we also have to acknowledge that come August, we're going to be playing games and the league around us isn't going to stand still. So as difficult as it is, somebody at the club will have to be taking care of the day-to-day stuff, the running, the transfers, the ins, the outs. We can't just stop dead and nothing happen. It's just, we can't do it. I know that sounds harsh, but somebody has to be able to do that. Because we also don't want this to be something that derails the club's progress. Nobody would want that. It's a really tricky balancing act. Like I said before, there's no playbook for this. So everybody's going to have to just do the best that they can. And, you know, one thing we said yesterday, and I'll repeat over and over again, is our football club always does us proud in these scenarios. They always do the right thing. They always treat people respectfully. And that's something that I think all of us hold dear about our club. So I've no doubt this will be the same. But we have to continue to move forward. As sad as it sounds, like, let's use the channel here as an example for a second. As we've said many times here, if people aren't ready to come back into a stream yet, as was so succinctly put by somebody the other night, that's okay. That's okay. We're here when you are ready. I think at the club it might be the same. Maybe there are players who aren't ready to take on the mental load yet of looking to a pre-season game. That's okay. The club will figure that out, and the players with the club will support the players. But the people around the club, the Michael Edwards, the Richard Hughes, they also have a duty to continue the process and the plan. It's just going to be obviously a tricky balancing act, but one that I've no doubt the club will do respectfully. Right. Nick said, I don't mean to come across rude, but does this tragedy increase or decrease the pressure on new players? They must feel awkward at the moment. I don't think it does either, personally, Nick. I think I think you can look at it a number of ways. You could go into that dressing room, look around and see that these guys really do care for each other, and think about that and think, I'm joining a good group, a group that is united, a group that is together. There's no denying it's going to be a strange experience for some of these guys coming into a club, and this being one of their first things to happen. There's no denying that, but ultimately, I truly believe it will be a bonding experience over the course of time, and they'll do something special. Because I have to think that, right? I have to believe that, because there has to be something, some sense made of this. There has to be, I don't mean to say some good to come up, because again, that's not right, but it can only be harnessed in a positive way. That's the only way we can do this. You can't let it eat us. We can't let it pull us apart. We have to find a way to come together, to have this as a not a bonding experience, but as a uniting experience, that we are in search of something together. I hope that makes sense. It's a difficult one to kind of put into words, but this is why every dressing room has a mixture of different people. You'll have leaders in there. You'll have people who are vocal. You will have people who will lead by example on the pitch or on the training ground. You will have others who might not be up for it. You know, there is no one-size-fits-all solution in these scenarios. It's about trying to do it as best as they can. Elmir said, hey Craig, first time checking in after the loss. What a club and what a channel. Thank you. I never felt the support, including you. Look, it's, as I've said, I've certainly very quickly understood how important everybody is to each other in here. And it's certainly bonded me closer to you guys, if that's possible. And I thank you for your kind words, mate. I do. Adam, RIP Diogo, Craig, you're spot on. We can't stand still. And I think that's the overwhelming consensus. You're right. We did a poll here the other night and we asked what you want us to do as a channel and as a community. And as difficult as it was, the answer was mainly move forward, start the process of getting back to normality, or what the new normal looks like. I think that's all you can do, right? And that's what the club has to do as well, because the world around us, for all the best intentions, is not going to stand still. People are still doing transfer business. Clubs are still strengthening. And we want our club to make sure that we don't allow what's an incredibly difficult situation to do anything other than unite people together. Stephen Iron said, Craig, do you think the Preston game gets cancelled? I haven't got a clue, mate. I don't know. I have no idea, because today was one of those days where there was nothing coming out from the AXA. It was just, you know, a few images of the players arriving or whatnot, but everything behind closed doors today was the right way to go, because I'm sure that there were some deep conversations in there and some difficult conversations as well about the pathway forward. But whatever the club decide, it will be the right decision, you know, and it will be the decision that the players and the staff will have come to together, and it'll be the right decision. That's, you know, whatever it might be, we don't know yet, but it will be the right decision for them and the feeling in the dressing room. Right, so let's talk about Diaz, if I can, for a minute, because there are some conflicting reports, to say the least, about what's going on with Luis Diaz. Or if the reports aren't conflicting, people are cherry picking a fact or two from what he said and running with a narrative. So this is what we've seen over the last 24 hours. We had one quote that said, Luis Diaz, when asked about rumours of interest from Barcelona and Al Nassr, said, at the moment, we're negotiating with Liverpool and all interested parties. I'm calm and happy at Liverpool. I think it over and try to make the best decision. So, can I be honest? Because I think you like me to be honest. When somebody says, I'm talking to other interested parties, my mind doesn't for 1 second think they want to remain where they are. Now, I know that this will be reported in different ways. You've got the Echo saying Luis Diaz confirms he's happy to stay at Liverpool. You've got others running to say Luis Diaz wants to go elsewhere. For me, when you have a player talking about weighing up their options in the future, I think he wants to leave. That's my gut feeling. And it is no more than that. It's not based off something I know that you don't know. My reading of it is this is a player that wants a new chapter. Rightly or wrongly, that's the way I see it at the minute. Then we had a report from Sport, which is a Spanish publication, which will obviously lean towards supporting the Spanish narrative. They say Luis Diaz will tell Liverpool today that he wishes to leave Anfield this summer. The winger considers his time in England to be over, although he will not begin negotiations to leave aggressively. And then there are other reports that say Pipe Sierra said Luis Diaz will tell Liverpool's management, either you renew my contract or let me leave because I have an offer from Barcelona or Bayern. He wants to stay, he wants to improve his contract conditions, but if not, he's going to ask to leave. Went on to say that he never mentioned asking for transfer request. Sorry, he never thought of putting in, or he's never going to put in a transfer request. So for me, look, there's a few ways to look at this. You can look at it and think he deserves a pay rise. Whether we're talking about the 140k a week he's on, whether we're talking about the 55, 60k a week that's been mentioned previously. But what isn't up for debate, I don't think, is that for whatever reason, it doesn't look like Liverpool are coming to the negotiating table with Luis Diaz. So whether you think he deserves a pay rise or not, it almost becomes irrelevant. Because if the club have no intention of coming to the table to give him a new deal, then there's only two options, which is let him run down his contract on what he's on and just kind of say, this is how it is, fella. Or you sell him. And honestly, I get the feeling he's leaving. I just really do get the feeling he's going to leave. And I think that that's what he wants to do. And I would also say that I think he's replaceable. I'd love him to stay, but it doesn't look like he's getting a new deal. And if the reports are true that he either wants a new deal or extension or to go, then I get the feeling like he's going to go. But let's wait and see how it pans out. And then there was another report or two as well that were talking about him informing Bayern that he wants to go to the Bundesliga and stuff like that. But I'll always say every country will have a different narrative here. So the German camp are saying that Diaz has told Max Eberl he wants to go to Bayern Munich and play in the Bundesliga. Sport are saying that Luis Diaz wants to play for Barcelona. So with the fact that obviously Nico Williams signed a new agreement, a new deal to keep him at Athletic Club Bilbao, maybe Diaz is back on the table. But my concern as a Liverpool fan is, if he is going to be sold, I want it to be as quickly as possible for as much money as possible so Liverpool can go about our business. Because if I'm Liverpool and I'm going into this summer's window, we know we're going to have to bring in a centre-back. We know we're going to have to bring in the full-backs. We planned for Florian Wirtz. So they've had their plan, but other things may sidetrack the plan. But Liverpool will have the list of targets that they want to go after. And then if Diaz moves or something like that happens, well, it will have to suit Liverpool. I know that might sound harsh to some people, but remember here, we support the football club. Players will come and go, and if he's not happy with the wage he's on, he's perfectly entitled to ask to leave. No problem with that. But Liverpool are also perfectly entitled to turn around and say, sorry fella, you're on a contract, you've signed it, we're happy with the terms you're on. So that's the way I see it. Yeah, that's just the way I see it. Now, I'm not saying you have to agree with me. That's just the way I look at this situation, the way I feel about it. My interest is always with the club. And also, I got to be honest about this as well. I get a pain in my hole listening to Barcelona being linked with Diaz every year. I'm absolutely fed up of it. Because I don't remember a summer that it hasn't come up since he's joined us. So the phrase "no smoke without fire" comes into my mind as well. You know, he obviously has a temptation to move away. And Liverpool Football Club, to me as a Liverpool fan, should be the best destination for anyone to come and play football. Yeah. Anyway, over to you guys for your say. Adam said, RIP Diogo, Craig, you're spot on, we can't stand still. Nick, the first goal with Diogo's kit being shown and a few of the boys mimicking the celebration will be very cathartic and will be a key point in the grieving period. I'm picturing it now and I'm smiling. It's going to be difficult. It is. Even smiling at times feels wrong, and celebrating a goal is probably going to feel strange for the guys at the start as well. But day by day, bit by bit, things will start to become that little bit easier. Carl said, I'm the only one that felt the media was searching for something with the Jota death. They've not shut up. They may have been speeding. So, look, how do I approach this? The media have a duty to report facts of a situation. And sometimes those facts are hurtful. And sometimes those facts are not what we want to hear. For me, I don't know whether speeding played a part in it or not. I have no idea. And it's irrelevant to me, if I'm being honest with you. If I was driving along in a supercar, would I be doing the speed limit? No. Let's be honest about it. I wouldn't. Neither would you. But it doesn't take away from the pain and the hurt and that it was an accident. So it's a part of the story. I know it's not nice to see it. And some of the coverage has been fucking deplorable, and we spoke about that, the likes of the Mail and some of the other outlets. But if the Spanish authorities come out with information, it is important that that information is reported and not sanitized. So it's just a matter of, I guess, how respectfully it's done. And like I said, for me, I'll be honest, if I was driving a Lamborghini, I'd be pretty certain I wouldn't be doing the speed limit at all times. I drive a Renault, and I can tell you categorically I don't do the speed limit at all times. You try to, of course, but we're all human. We all have moments where perhaps we have a bit of adrenaline or something like that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that two young men sadly departed us. Families are grieving. Hey Craig and chat, sending love during this awful time for the club. The Jota news broke me. I didn't think it was real when I first read it. I don't know how I felt when I first read it, because when I first seen it, there was lots. Like, by the time I got round to seeing it and woke up, it'd been verified and it was pretty well known. So I had a whole host of things from credible sources that made me know, unfortunately, it was definitely real. But what I did think I underestimated was the impact it would have on me. I've got to be honest about that. I spoke to Connor about it today as well, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you guys. You probably wrestled with a lot of strange emotion over feeling so sad about somebody that you personally didn't know. It's a very special relationship we have with our sports stars, our musicians, and the people we idolize. We think of them; they're a huge part of our lives. So, like I said, it's one of these situations where we'll all have to help each other through it. It still feels unreal, right? And when you find yourself talking about a transfer topic in a video, and then I find back in my mind, I'm going, does transfers even matter? Does football matter? It's tough. It is tough, but I remember when my own father died, and I was 21 at the time, and I wanted the world to stop. I wanted everybody to just understand what I was going through and the pain I was feeling, but it doesn't. And we're going to have to start the process of moving forward as a group, as a community, as a club. And that starts with today, the first steps back at the AXA training facility. Ryan said, too much on Isak for me when we need numbers, not to mention his injury record ain't great. We need at least 3 players if Nunez and Diaz go. So, right. Let me ask you this then, Ryan. If you knew that Isak wasn't going to take away from Liverpool being able to do the business we need to do. So, I think the general consensus right now is 1 centre-back, maybe 2. A centre-forward and maybe a wide player. So, if you can guarantee me that I'm not going to be sitting here feeling like we're a position or 2 short come the start of the season, then I don't really mind what it costs, if you understand what I'm saying. I think we're all jumping ahead of ourselves here a little bit because we're assuming that if we spend £150 million, which is an eye-watering amount of money, that it will mean we can't do something else. But that's not what we've been told. What we've been told was that Liverpool have the money to do this, and yes, sales will be a part of it, but I don't think we're going to sell ourselves into leaving ourselves short. I just don't think we're going to do that. So that's one thing I would say. Whatever we feel about the transfer business, we're not going to intentionally leave ourselves short. So I don't think it'll be a case of, well, let's spunk all this money on him and then say, well, we've no centre-back. I don't believe that will be the case. Craig Gascoigne, how are we, sir? Said, hi, Craig, I hope you're well. What if we get Madrid in the Champions League early on? Tell Konate he has 2 weeks to get a £35 million, or you can rot on the bench. So, honestly, I don't have anything on Konate that I can bring to the table. Nothing new. The only reports that I really seen today was one saying from Marca, who, of course, as we know, are going to be very, very much in the Real Madrid camp, said Ibrahima Konate has now rejected 2 contract renewal offers from Liverpool. His current deal runs out next summer. I don't know what else to add to that. If that's where we're at, that's where we're at. But the club will also know that. I don't know what's going to happen with Konate because he's been quite silent through this as well. But Diaz, I just get the feeling he's going to leave. Or at least he wants to leave. Hey Craig, how are you? Was just reading on Team Talk about us linked 27-year-old Almeria, Colombia forward Luis Suarez, 25 million, him and Isak. Don't know. Haven't got a clue. I know the player because I do watch a bit of La Liga, but not seeing the report. And like I've said, I'm not the guy to tell you who we're going to go for as a striker. I don't have that information. But again, I do think we will not leave ourselves short. That's the only thing I feel confident in saying right now is I believe that we will not leave ourselves short as a club. So what do you guys want to happen with Diaz? Let's go with that one. What do you think we should do with Luis Diaz? If you were Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes right now, what would be your reading of the situation and what would you like to see happen? Love your Diogo tribute in the background. Thank you, Ryan. As I mentioned earlier on, Connor got that one sorted out. So again, there's a mixture: sell, keep, sell. So right, let's say you have no intention of renewing him, and he comes into your office and he says, "You either renew me and give me a pay increase, or I want to go." If you are Liverpool, and look, what we do seem to feel confident in is that Liverpool don't want to give him a new deal. It doesn't seem like they want to. So it's either he stays at the club and probably leaves for free in 2 years, or we sell. For me, I'd say sell because I don't think he's irreplaceable. And I can't get away from the fact that I don't want anybody who doesn't want to be at Liverpool Football Club. I just don't. And again, not to say he doesn't want to be here, but he certainly got some doubts about wanting to be here. Someone said 2-0 Chelsea now. Fair play. And yeah, doesn't really impact us at all, but hey Craig, media are awful human beings. Family are grieving. Media come out with nonsense. Media don't care about the Ogo. Shame on them. But here's the thing, Andrew, right? Let's be honest, and let's all speak as adults in the room. The media are scumbags at times. No argument for me on that one. But here's the problem. Sorry, I'm trying to word this very carefully. Virtue signalling and faux outrage ain't going to change shit. The only thing that's going to stop these leeches from posting the disgusting crap they do is not clicking on the article. Because spreading around, I don't want the Daily Mail, all that's doing is highlighting the Daily Mail. And people that aren't as attached as us to it are finding out more stuff about it. For me, the best way to get rid of these type of lowlifes is to not click the articles. Even in your own private moments when you're sitting at home and you know it's just you and your phone, it's you and the news, don't click it. That's the only way to deal with these people. Because how many times have you seen a friend of yours or whatever put into the chat and go, I can't believe what these scumbags have done, whether it be about anything, and you click on it and you look at it and you go, yeah, well, they're winning. The way to deal with these fuckers is to not click on the articles, to not even acknowledge their existence and hope that they just go broke and disappear. That's the way I think it should be dealt with. And I agree, the coverage has been shocking from some outlets. But jumping up and down and shouting about it and going online and posting about it ain't going to do shit. Stop clicking on the articles. Stop talking about them. That's the way I think we should deal with it, personally. What do you think will be? Who do you think will be the new vice captain? Robbo, if he stays. Yeah, probably Robbo. It doesn't really matter because I think we've got a leadership group at the club. So, we've got so many senior pros there, and Mo and Gomez and Robbo and in Allison. Many leaders. Right, so we asked, do you think Isak is really possible this summer? We've already had nearly 3,500 votes, so thank you all so much for taking the time to vote on it. 57% think that it's possible. I don't know which side I'd put myself in. I genuinely feel I'm on the fence. I want to think it's possible. But again, we're talking about not just a deal that is a high sum of money. Like if we knew Newcastle said outright, yeah, he's for sale, but only for £150 million, then I'd probably think, okay, this is possible. But at the moment, we have a situation where we're not sure if he's for sale, and the prices being mentioned are all just kind of media guesses. So I'm not sure. But also, there is some doubt on their side. That has to be acknowledged as well. There's an uncertainty. And if I'm Isak, I'm coming into the prime of my career. Am I going to win big prizes at Newcastle? Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues. You're not. You'll be a hero there. You'll be probably well paid. You'll play in the Champions League, certainly this season. But if you view yourself as the best of the best and world class, you need to be at a club that you feel will challenge for those honours. And respectfully, Newcastle at this stage of the development are not that club. So let's wait and see how it pans out. But I think I'm on the fence whether it's possible or not. I go back and forth between the two. So again, a lot of people I think are naively thinking that this decision about Isak will come down to just Newcastle. It won't. Newcastle will say he's not for sale. But if the player wants out, and if the player wants to move, we know that player power ultimately wins in these situations. Because what you also don't want as a club is an unhappy player in the dressing room when you're trying to create unity and you're trying to move forward as a group. You don't want an unhappy superstar in there either. So you got to take into account that side of it. Yeah, I think I agree with Mike. It's solely down to Isak. I think he's going to be the one that makes this decision ultimately, where his future lies. Right, let's go on Konate. Let's talk Konate for a minute. I want to ask what you think happens with Konate this summer, because I'm genuinely trying to gauge how you're feeling on this one, because I haven't got a clue. I know how I feel about it, but I don't know what's going to happen. So what happens with Konate? So let's go with signs a new deal, which I think is what we all hope for. Runs down his deal. And lastly, let's go with sold this summer. Right, so what happens with Konate? Signs a new deal, runs down his deal to leave for free, or he's sold this summer. They're the three options as I see it anyway. Right, let me get back into some of the comments. Asentino said, does Šeško play in a wide position? Thank you in the community for the support during the difficult times. Always viewed Diogo like Bobby. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of RB Leipzig to tell you how exactly Šeško plays in that team. I would imagine he is a straightforward centre forward, but I couldn't tell you, mate. But what we need is a centre forward. I mean, there's no shortage of wide players out there. And again, I'm going to come on to talk about Rodrigo in a second. But yeah, I think we need a bona fide centre forward for the centre forward position. Right, let's talk about the situation with Rodrigo. So Graham Bailey with TBR has said that Liverpool have reached out to Rodrigo Goes' camp. Now, a bit of background on this. I'm sure a lot of you probably know this, but just in case you don't. So Liverpool tried to sign Rodrigo when he was still at Santos, and he was still in school at that point. And we could have got him for about $2.5 million at the time. Didn't happen, and he ended up going to Real Madrid. So there's no denying that Liverpool have followed Rodrigo's career and are aware that there might be an opportunity this summer. But what I don't know is what Liverpool's thought process is financially for that position. So at the moment, do we need a Rodrigo? No. Or do we? Because let's go back to something I told you I read a month ago, which is that Liverpool are looking for a versatile forward that can play across the front line. That very well could be Rodrigo. It could. You know, he ticks that box. He is a versatile forward that can play right across the front line. And I don't like the idea of us doing business with Real Madrid, but as somebody mentioned yesterday, if there's a happy middle ground in this where Konate is involved in a deal that benefits both clubs and removes a potential headache for us as well, I wouldn't be against that. And if you said to me just flatly out, would I like Rodrigo at Liverpool or not? Yes. Yes, I would. I think most football clubs fans on planet Earth would say they wouldn't mind Rodrigo at their club. So I have no problem with the quality. It's just, does it line up? I don't know. Eddie said, I'm not being funny, but what makes people think that the manager even wants Isak? Right, well, let me flip your question and say, what makes you think he doesn't? It's equally as unanswerable as a question, Eddie. You know, what we know is we need a centre forward. And what we know is we've been linked with Isak. And many credible journalists have spoken about Liverpool's admiration of Isak. So, your question can be flipped on its head and answered the exact same way. What makes you think he doesn't? The answer is you don't know the answer to it. And the same answer to your question about, I can't sit here and tell you 100% that Arna does, because I don't know Arna. But we do need a forward. That much is not up for debate. We're going to sell Darwin and we need a forward, if not two. Cody said, they say bad publicity is good publicity, but this is exactly why they get people talking about them. Exactly, Cody, I agree. Best not to give the cretins the airtime. Pokemon Bouvard said, Isak does not have the work rate to track down players. His energy levels disappear after 60 minutes as well. He'll just walk on the pitch. Reminds me of Martin Dallin. Well, look, what I think we'll all agree on is that any player that Liverpool look at, they will have models, data and information far capable of what we know about a player with the eye test. So if Liverpool have zoned in on a particular player in any position, you can bet your ass that they've looked in depth into the metrics that they view as important to the way Arna wants to play. And if they land on Isak, then I think we need to give them credit that they'll have done the research to say that this is the guy that all signs point to. And again, I'm not saying Isak's the answer, but I'm saying, we're dealing with very, very specialised people in people who I think, if we're being honest about it as well, have earned their stripes and usually have gotten these things right. If you go back to some of the transfers we've gotten wrong, but some of these people weren't at the club at that time. And the transfer philosophy was a bit different. Matt Denny said, Rodrigo in, Diaz out would be an upgrade, yes. For me, yeah. Would people agree with that? Would people agree with this statement from Matt Denny? I would say yes, personally. Rodrigo in, Diaz out would be an upgrade. For me, yes. Like I've often said to you, I often look to age as well as quality in these scenarios. And yeah, it is. Because here's the thing, right? I'm not saying we don't like Diaz. We do. I would dare say most people in the chat appreciate Luis Diaz. But has he ever reached Sadio Mane levels? No, he hasn't. So let's be honest about that as well. He has shown us why we signed him, because he has had explosive, brilliant moments where you think, yes, Lucho, go on. But has it been consistent enough over the course of his time here? Probably not. If we're being really difficult and tough, probably not. Is he upgradable? Yeah. And he's 28, 29? So, he's had a long enough career that, we've enough of a sample size. So I would say 100% it would be an upgrade personally. And I dare say I think the chat would probably agree. Looking at some of the comments, there's one nope, and I really... Well, look, it's your opinion, mate. You're entitled to it. I'm not going to belittle you for it. A lot of yeses, to be fair. Danny said, I prefer Diaz to Rodrigo. Can totally understand that as well, mate. You're absolutely entitled to that opinion. So for me, when I look at these situations, right, I often ask, is there improvement to be had left, right? And with Diaz, probably not much at this point of his career. But I do think Rodrigo still has more gears he can go through. And I think Arna could unlock that a little bit more. And he has age on his side. So I do take those factors into account as well when I'm talking about a potential upgrade. And I've often said to you, I do love a tricky player who can run our people. Diaz can do that, certainly. But I don't know, I would say it's an upgrade myself. Eddie said, sorry for how that sounded. No, mate, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a snotty question or anything. It was a fair question, but it's the only way I could think of answering it, Eddie. Joseph said, assuming Konate doesn't re-sign, would you rather sign Isak and let Konate play, or sign a cheaper striker and buy a centre-back to replace him? That's a really good question, Joseph. So the answer I'm going to give you is probably I would take Konate running down his deal if it meant we got the striker. And here's why. I assume we're bringing in a defender right now, no matter what else happens, because we lost Kwanzaa. So I have to assume we're bringing in a defender. And if you brought in a Mark Gay for a jumping off point, I'm thinking, right, I've got Mark Gay, Joe Gomez, and Virgil van Dijk. And then we've got Konate. So if Konate's form or his mind isn't where it should be, I have options. I can bring in Joe Gomez. I can play Mark Gay. So I would say I'd go with the option of letting him run down his deal. Although I'd still rather that not happen, because I don't ever think you're going to really get 100% from somebody who knows the future isn't at the club. They'll know all the right things to say and all, of course, but, human nature is human nature and people are selfish. And if you have a 50-50 there and you think this might fuck up my knee, I'm not one fibre of my body believes you're putting 100% in. So I would still take the better forward, because I think we'd know pretty soon if Konate's head wasn't in it, and then maybe in January we could do something. I can see us for Rodrigo. If Isak is impossible, he could play centre forward, a little like PSG played this season. Yeah, it's a fair point. Sorry, there's just somebody in the chat saying, give it a rest about Isak. You might want to tell the media writing the stories, mate. I'm not a journalist. I'm a fan who talks about what's written by the journalists. So, you can cry arse about Isak and them stories to the people that write them. I think what you've said there has some sense to it. Like I said, versatile young forward that can play across the front line was something that was written about by a few journalists, and in a world where maybe the ideal centre forward, like you said, isn't out there, yeah, I can see why a possibility for what you've said, and especially if Diaz stayed. So let's say we signed Rodrigo instead of a striker. You've got Rodrigo, you'd have Diaz that could play central, you could have a false nine situation, you have young Dans. It's not impossible, mate. It's not impossible what you've said. Yeah, decent show, thank you. Are we forgetting Gakpo? No, in my mind, it's nailed on Gakpo's on the left side. In this scenario, I'm talking about the extra player. No, Gakpo's gravy, mate. We're not talking about Gakpo because there's no way on earth he's leaving. So, Scouts Cole said, Craig, don't mean to interrupt, but do you see Pedro scoring 2 goals for Chelsea in the semis? We've missed out. What's your opinion? My opinion is that I said for a long time I'd have him as a second striker at Liverpool, and I was laughed at. That's my opinion. And now that, we're having match of the day fever and he's playing for another club and he's scoring goals, people all of a sudden are rewriting their history. I would have had no problem signing João Pedro, but not to be the number one guy, because I don't think he's at the level required to be the number one guy. There's no denying there's a player in there, absolutely. But, let's not pretend that there wasn't a huge section of our fan base who would have turned their noses up at the idea of Liverpool signing João Pedro. So, right. Ooh, interesting. Fairly close, this one. So, the question is, what happens with Konate? Signs a new deal, runs down his deal and sold this summer. 2 of them are level at the minute, so do keep voting if you can. Chiesa needs time on the pitch. He does, but let's be honest, it's not looking likely he's going to get that at Liverpool, is it? He's a name that I've almost put out of my mind this summer, because I don't see us losing him as a sacrifice to minutes on the pitch for somebody else. It's a tough one, because obviously he didn't feature much last season, so he was on the bench all right, but it's not like we were seeing the manager bring him on to change games. So yeah, look, there's a lot for us to do in the market still. I don't think anybody's in any doubt about that, but what the order is now, I would have to say, for me, It's centre forward, centre back. They're the two priorities right now. And centre back is a glowing need. We're having sold Kwanzaa. I can only assume we sold Kwanzaa knowing that we're bringing in a centre back. Because again, these aren't stupid people. They're not going to sell Kwanzaa and not have plan A or B for a replacement. They're not going to do that. Eddie said, do you think Jayden could be backup striker? If he can show in pre-season and his fitness stands up, Eddie, yeah. I don't see why not. He's another option and he's one of our players, so why not? The problem for Jayden Daniels has been that he didn't get minutes last season because of his back injury, and that was unfortunate. But if he can show that that's past him and we're moving past that, and he has a good pre-season, absolutely. You would expect that whatever happens with him is going to be a late decision in the window anyway, after Arne gets a chance to have a look at him and, sees what his movement is like and the reports from the physios and the sports science team. Are people sleeping on Chelsea as Liverpool challengers? No, they're just not that good. Look, I'm not here bringing up Chelsea, right? You asked me a question, so I'm going to give you an honest answer. They've had a very easy route through the Club World Cup. And again, it's not saltiness, it's an honest opinion. And do I sleep on them as a challenger? No. They're nowhere fucking near winning the Premier League. Not a chance. That defence is horrendous. Let's be frank about it. It's horrendous. And I believe they'll be ripped to shreds in the final, whether it's against Paris or whether it's against Madrid. So no, I'm not sleeping on them. That's my dog again. I'm not sleeping on them because they're just not that good, quite frankly, in my opinion. And if you look at their squad written down on paper, it doesn't scare me one bit. That's my honest answer, mate. Craig, do you think when the LFC media will be back to normal? I don't know. I have no idea. Certainly, there was never going to be anything coming out from today's first training session back because, it's a very respectful private time. What's this? Hang on. So Romano's just said Galatasaray have improved their official bid for Victor Osimhen. €75 million value reached of the release clause, but not triggering it as the offer is with payment terms in installments. Now it's up to Napoli. So are we going to see a situation now where maybe Napoli get that money for Victor Osimhen and start to come to a realistic stance with the valuation of Darwin Nunez compared to Liverpool are asking? Maybe. But one thing I think I want to make really clear from me is there's no world where Darwin's suddenly going to be good enough. Let's not play this game of what ifs and pretend he's had 2.5 years, 2 different managers, and he isn't good enough. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel. He's not good enough. And the tragic situation of what's happened doesn't change the fact that he's not good enough. He isn't. We're not going to improve by playing him again next season. It's not going to happen. He's had all the chances he needs, and it just isn't it for us. Mason said, okay, we give Newcastle Elliott for 60 million, we get Isak. But why would Newcastle pay 60 million for a player whose price is 40 million or 50 million with no release clause? And also, Harvey Elliott's not worth 60 million quid. Let's not lose our fucking minds here. But Darwin cut his hair, said Liz. That puts up the price by 5 million, Liz. There's no denying that. Darwin shortening his hair and going towards the shaved head look absolutely puts 5 million. Scientifically proven, Liz. We don't need to argue that. A bald player is a better player. And yes, Darwin's price has gone up 5 million because he shaved his head. I agree. No argument for me on that one, Liz. Hoarder said, I still love Darwin. Look, I'm not here to judge, mate. You love Darwin, no problem. I see a player who belittled my football club by saying the reason he wasn't getting played was because of money and not because he was shit. And that, to me, mate, is disgusting. It just is. So you love players all you want, but I don't love anyone who disrespects our football club in the manner that I feel he's done not once, not twice, but 3 or 4 times now. Whether it's storming off social media, whether it's bitching about fans and posts, whether it's not going to clap away fans who have only ever sung his name, or whether it's him accusing the club of not playing him, not because he was shit, but because of money. That doesn't sit well with me. Look inwardly. If it's not working out for you, why? Is it the team? Well, the team are winning. The team are doing quite well. So might it be possible, Darwin, that the reason you're not being played is because you're not putting the round thing in the onion bag? And he seems unwilling to acknowledge that fact. And it seems to be everybody else's fault but his. And I think as a fan base, Liverpool's fan base have been incredibly supportive in the main, especially the travelling Reds. You see every game, they sing his name. And everybody wanted him to do well. But he hasn't. And I don't think he's handled himself incredibly well. Now look, I'm an emotional dude. I get emotional outbursts. I do. But if you add that to the fact that he's not good enough, what the fuck is the point at this stage? Just, yeah. That's sorry, that's just genuinely how I feel about it. Like, you know, you want to snarky be bitch about the club publicly, by the way, not in the dressing room, fucking publicly saying, oh, now I know why I'm not being played. No, I'll tell you why you're not being played, because you're shit. That's why you're not being played. Because you're not putting the ball in the net. Because you're going around with a fucking cob on. That's why you're not being played, mate. Nothing to do with the club's money. The club have proven by playing you the next day that it's not about that. It's about you not being good enough. So either work on that or leave. Sorry, I have a few chats to catch up on. Sorry, sometimes these things just push my buttons, and I'm all for people standing their ground, but let's have some realism in here as well. You know, the reason he wasn't being played ain't because of money. Sorry, Crindle said, Seshko for Nunez, Rodrigo for Diaz, thoughts? Look, I'm somebody who does like Benjamin Seshko, but I'd be also somebody here who would say to you that I think he's being overpriced by the number that RB Leipzig are asking for. But would I rather him than Nunez? Absolutely. Rodrigo for Diaz, yeah. I think both of those are upgrades for me, Crindle. Again, I'd be interested to see what the chat feels, but for me, yeah, I'd say both of those are upgrades, but Seshko wouldn't be my first choice as a striker. Ken said, I agree, my fear is that we haggle too much and he ends up staying. Well, there is some truth to that as well. Like, I've sat here and said, I think he's overpriced. I think we're asking too much money for him. But I guess, ultimately, if the club get the money, fair play. If they don't get the money, yeah, you're right. But we also have to acknowledge that Napoli have money. They've got the Kavisha Kvaratskhelia money. They're going to have Victor Osimhen money. And if I'm Liverpool and Napoli are saying, well, we can move on to the Udinese striker, Lorenzo Luca. Cool, do it and shut the fuck up. Or don't. That's my response to them. So you've got Romano on there, bigging up Napoli, saying, oh, Napoli have options and at any point they could trigger the move for Lorenzo Luca. Yeah, they could, but they don't really want them. They really want Darwin. So shut the fuck up. That's the way I see these things. You know, and Romano doing Napoli's bidding again, trying to make out like they have options and Liverpool should be weary. No, Liverpool have a load of dough that they know will be coming in from Saudi. And ultimately, one way or the other, Darwin's going to be leaving. So if Napoli don't want to pay the money, then shut up negotiating. Simple as that. You know, and I'm kind of fed up of Italian clubs with that. They're always looking for a deal, always looking to knock down a price, always looking to get somebody on the cheap. But we don't have to accept it. So if they don't want to pay the asking price, they can agree with Darwin Nunez all they want. They can talk about him, sell him the project, do all that shit. But if you don't get an agreement with Liverpool, you've just wasted your own time. Craig, if Isak doesn't work, who's your next choice? Good question. So I don't know anything about Hugo Ekitike. Don't know if he's good enough or not. If we're signing Hugo Ekitike, I don't think he's worth €100 million. So, and that's even allowing for him being as good as the people who think he's good agree. I just don't see the jump up in valuation from when he went to Frankfurt, who got an absolute bargain. So I want who the club wants. That's the honest answer. I want Arne to have the striker that he wants. So who would I like? I'd love Alvarez. I'd love Isak. I won't lie, I was starting to warm a little bit to the potential idea of Osimhen. But I don't know. I want whoever Liverpool want. I just want the player that they think is the right fit. Excuse me. Dean said, Craig, I've had a hard time recently due to depression and a suicide attempt. I love this channel and club. Forget all the haters. Much love to you. Well, I'm glad you're here, Dean. And I'm glad that your attempt was a failed attempt, if you understand where I'm coming from, because I get it. I understand, mate. I've been there. You know, I've never tried to take my own life, but I've been in the dark place. But I'm glad you're still here, and I'm glad you're communicating, and I'm glad that you're expressing your feelings, and I'm proud of you. And thank you for your kind words about our community, but I'm more concerned to make sure that you're doing okay, mate. But yeah, thank you for checking in. I do appreciate that. Right, so we've had loads of votes on this one. Oof, it's 1% in it, but here's the result of this poll. What happens with Konate this summer? Sol this summer, actually, it won it by 1%. What YouTube did was 30 again. It was 38 for Sol this summer, 37 for runs down his deal, and 25 for signs a new deal. So what I'm gauging from this, is that 75% of people don't think he signs a new deal. And isn't that sad? Genuinely, isn't that sad? Because he should be chomping at the bit to stay at Liverpool Football Club. And look, I understand he'll want a certain number and Liverpool will want their version of it with add-ons and whatnot. But ultimately, you'd hope there'd be a compromise there, because he's been a great character to have around the club. Always looks like he's fun, always looks like he's in good spirits, always comes across like a good guy. And look, he's not the finished article defensively, but he's a really good defender and certainly has a formidable partnership with Virgil. I think it's sad that we're at this position, even, because it's Liverpool Football Club. It's Liverpool Football Club. But what I want from this situation is just honesty. You know, if he doesn't want to sign a new deal and it's going to take, let's say, Liverpool to come to a stupid number, then I'd just like it dealt with in an adult way, and Liverpool to understand, okay, it's better to sell him this summer and get maybe 5 or 10 million quid less than we value him at, and going out and getting a replacement, than having a player and another season where the whole season, every feckin' week, we have an article written about it from Madrid saying he's already given his word to Madrid. He's told Florentino Perez that he likes fucking, I don't know, Andrex toilet roll, and he loves Volvic water. I don't know, whatever nonsense they write in the Spanish media, but I'd like it definitively dealt with this summer, one way or the other. Is it weird that I was trying to go through all the brands of toilet roll in my head and I couldn't think of one? I was like coming up trying to remember a brand of toilet roll, a kind of luxurious brand of toilet roll, and I remember that I'm a cheap son of a bitch who buys Nickies. Nicky's toilet roll, the cheapest one in the supermarket. Sorry. It's true. I always say to my wife if she buys the good stuff, what are you doing? We literally wiping our hole with that, love. It's like you're wiping your backside with €5 notes. Like, sorry, just a bit of a tangent there. It's the one thing I hate spending money on, you know, because literally it's going down the toilet. Danny said, hey gang, not going to lie, completely forgot about us winning the Premier League and our signings due to the tragedy. We'll win it for Diogo, 21-7 incoming. Look, it's of course, but I haven't really thought about last season or the end of the season over the last few days. I don't think you're on your own there. I also wasn't ready to watch the tribute on LFC TV. I can't bring myself to watch that yet. You know, once just even seeing, you know, this from Diogo in the celebration, that started me off blubbering, and I'm just not ready yet. I just haven't there yet. And love this from Danny as well. Absolute gentleman, Danny. And this is why I absolutely love you guys. It's, again, kind words to Dino. Special group of people, lads. You're a special group of people. Thank you. Can you do a recap? There'll be a news video, mate. I'll be putting out a news video tonight with a recap. I probably will fly through it again for you in a little while. We've plenty of time left on the stream, so don't worry about that. People already hate Konate and Luis Diaz. Guys, please don't believe media. Certainly, you haven't heard a hateful word come out of my mouth about either of them. Like, Trent hurt me a lot more because he should get it. He's local. So that situation wound me up a lot more than a player from France or Colombia maybe leaving. I've always said this. All I ever ask for is honesty. If somebody wants another chapter in their career, no problem. But if you want to go to Madrid, why the fuck are you even negotiating with Liverpool? You know, that's the way I try to view these things. If that it really is what you want, great. But if it isn't, I hope he stays. And with Diaz as well, I just get the feeling he wants to move because it's been going on for a few years now, and it doesn't. The Barcelona stuff isn't going away. And I don't think Barcelona will get to the number, but you're seeing stories that start to say this. Luis Diaz is aware that there is a chance that Barcelona might not be able to register him in time if he signs for them. So he's requested to add an indemnisation clause if this happens, making them pay a considerable amount to Diaz if they don't register him. So let me flip this and ask you a question. I don't know what other Liverpool players currently have about 2 years to go off the top of them. Let's say Alisson, right? Let's just say Alisson. Because I think he's in the same contract position as Diaz. If you heard right now, Alisson Becker publicly come out and start saying that he's spoken with other clubs, he's spoken with Liverpool as well, and he's, you know, in negotiations with other clubs about his future, what are you going to think? Be honest. You're going to think he's thinking about leaving. And that's what I think about Diaz, because he's publicly acknowledging this, that he's talking to other clubs. And it's not like he is in the last year. He's got 2 years to go on his Liverpool deal. So the only club he should be fucking talking to is us. But he isn't. Why? And the answer has to be because he's looking for a way out. That's the only thing I can think of. And I get it. I know we all have to pretend, like we did with Trent, that everybody loves Liverpool and everything is and everybody's marvellous and nobody ever does a snidey thing. But that's not the world. That's not real life. And people have their own selfish needs. They just do. We have to acknowledge that. Or he's using teams for a better deal. But he ain't getting a better deal. I think that's one thing we should be pretty certain of right now. He's not getting a better deal. You know, there's been a consistent line that Liverpool have no intention to negotiate. So, the better deal ain't coming. So you either accept that fact, that the better deal ain't coming, or you find a club to pay what Liverpool would want. It's the options. Would I like Liverpool to give him a new deal? Absolutely. I think we all agree Diaz has had a good season for us. And I said many times this year, I wouldn't be looking to be rushing him out the door. But if he's talking to other clubs, then Liverpool should be looking around as well, just to make sure. Cecilia Bambolina, how are we, my friend? Said, I know I'm biased, but in the wake of the tragedy with the outstanding amount of class displayed by our club, how could anybody ever want to leave? Look, you're right. We're all biased, right, mate? We are. And like you said, we look at Liverpool as the be-all and end-all, the greatest thing in the world. But I totally do understand if a player says, I'd love a little spell in the Prem, wouldn't mind a spell in La Liga, wouldn't. I get it. I have no problem. And there are players who will openly talk about that they would like chapters in their career. I don't expect everybody to come to the club, fall in love with it, and only ever want to be here for the rest of time. It's just not real. But all I ask for in these situations is honesty. And the Trent situation stunk to high hell because it was really clear that he wasn't staying. But we all had to pretend because we didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings and we didn't want to be insensitive, even though it was really clear that he was being a snidey little shit that wanted to leave. But again, we all had to pretend because, we have to pretend that everybody's superhuman beings and nobody's snidey in any way, shape or form. And that's all I ever want is like, if you want to do, right, no problem. But let's look at the situation with Darwin. I just find it really weird that clubs talk to players, sell them, and then go lowballing us, the selling club. Ultimately, people know the parameters of what Liverpool want, and Liverpool, rightly or wrongly, feel like the price for Diaz has been set from the offer United were going to get for Bruno Fernandes, which was €100 million or £100 million in that case, and Liverpool value Diaz at about £85 million. I'm not here to say that valuation's right. I'm not trying to say that valuation's wrong, but it is the valuation seemingly. So the answer is pay it or shut the fuck up. That's the way I look at it. Pay it or stop destabilising our players. So this is where I think we need to get to the point of Konate, you've got X amount of time, make a decision. Diaz, Barcelona, or whoever has X amount of time to come up with a number. And if they don't, we don't have time to replace you, fella. And we have to look after our own interests. Luke said, Vlahovic, someone to consider. Just don't see him personally from what I've seen of Vlahovic. I don't think he's it. I'd rather we got Yildiz if we were going in. I know he's not a striker, but I'd rather we got Yildiz if we were going into Juventus. Liz, Sabrina deserves the finest TP in the land. No. Said like Neil, she deserves whatever the cheapest crap Tesco have is. Ian has a big vote tonight. Good vibes are welcome. Absolutely sending Ian love. And so far, he's had good outcomes in the ones that you've let us know about, Liz. So I do hope it goes well for Ian tonight. I know the good work that he does. What's the Rodrigo news? No problem, mate. Let me go back through it for you. Actually, I haven't read this one out yet. That's just come in. Sorry. So, Romano said, as we mentioned a moment ago, Galatasaray have improved their official bid for Victor Osimhen. €75 million reached as value of the release clause, but not triggering the release clause as the offer is in payment in 5 installments. And again, it feels like, well, that's the Nunez money sorted. And that's what anything Liverpool have gone with as well. And I agree with them. If Napoli get the money for Osimhen, then they have the money to buy Darwin. So hopefully we get to the point where they either get serious with the offer or they move on and sign your man Lorenzo Luca. But either way, we, again, can't be waiting around because we won't see Liverpool move for a striker till we sell Darwin. Will, how are we, mate? Said, off topic, I wanted to say thank you for being an OG. I love that you're unapologetic, yet loving and caring, and always true to building a community. Also, Adidas better effing send you a free box. Oh, dude, I've never asked you guys to do anything on social media for me ever, but I'm going to ask you to be helping me to catch Adidas's attention because I'm going to be shameless about it. I love Adidas, as you can see every time I come on here. If you see me outside, probably going to see me in an Adidas top as well. So yeah, I'd love Adidas. You just even acknowledge our existence would be lovely. That would be incredible, mate. Yeah, it would. It'd be absolutely incredible. And thank you. Um, I think I like to think that what you've said there was right. I am blunt and unapologetic, but I am caring as well. And I do have a kind heart. And I will never start a row with somebody on here that hasn't come in with a snidey attitude or something. And if I do, and I'm wrong about it, of course, I'll apologise. But I appreciate that you guys are here every night. It means a lot to me. And I always feel like I've got imposter syndrome, that something's gone wrong and I've gotten lucky, or there's a glitch and people are watching. So I'll always work my ass off to try and justify my existence on here, if that makes sense. Because I know you guys could be anywhere, and I really appreciate you giving up your time to be here for a chat with me. Jamie said Adidas. I go back and forth, dude. You'll see me 1 minute saying Adidas, and then you'll hear me say Adidas a few minutes later. I jump between both pronunciations. But yeah, any acknowledgement from Adidas would be incredible. You know, even a little. I've never had a freebie around Liverpool Football Club before. I haven't. No freebies. I don't expect them either. Like, but I fucking love them from Adidas. I'm not gonna lie. That would make my life complete. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I'm a huge fanboy of Adidas. I'm even in my wife's phone since we were going out with each other at 19 as Adidas boy. No joke, that's how she had me on her phone. If you want to know what I have her as in my phone, tiny little human. Genuinely, if my wife rings me in the car, all you'll see is tiny little human come up on the dashboard. Mark Williams, how are you, sir? Said, hi Craig, hope you're okay. Apparently there was a private jet from Biggin Hill, 9 miles from Palace to Blackpool this morning. I haven't got a clue where we're at with the Mark A situation. What I will say is there's two centre-back stories that I haven't gotten onto yet. One of them is Gimme Sport saying that Newcastle remain hopeful of winning the race to sign Mark A. And secondly, there's a young centre-back that you guys kind of mentioned earlier on that said Liverpool are showing an interest in teenage star Giovanni Leone. He's one of Italy's biggest prospects who enjoyed a brilliant debut season. He's 18 years of age and is 6'4", and that comes from Alex Crook. It's the first time I heard the young man's name was today. So, but certainly one maybe to just keep an eye on. So again, his name is Giovanni Leone, Leoni. Yeah, that's all I know. Wayne said, hope you and the family are well. Not going to lie, not many number 9s out there. I wonder, is there a striker that we haven't mentioned that we're after? I'm sure there is. Like, I've no doubt Liverpool will have a list as long as your arm of strikers, but I'm really intrigued to see who they make the move for. I really, really am. Like, I know we'll get a centre-back, and I think we could probably make an educated guess on who that might be. But I haven't got a clue on the striker situation outside of a mad move for Isak. I really don't know what to expect. Danny said he's so strong for his age. Oh, if I can ask you a small favour, actually, folks. Sorry, we're going to stay on for about 20 more minutes, by the way, so don't be going anywhere. If you can, do hit that like button for me. We're at about 940. That's incredible. Also, our last ever stage show, we're taking it to Liverpool once again to finish up Sunday, the 19th of October. It's the weekend of the Manchester United game as well. We're going to be at the Hot Water Comedy Club for our last ever show. We put the tickets right down to £15 to be as cheap as we possibly can for everyone. It's an all ages event. If you'd like to come and see us, you can get your tickets with that QR code or the link in the description. We're going to have a musical act. We're going to have myself. We're going to have Steve. We're going to have Jack. We're going to have Chris. And we're going to make it a fun show for everyone to sign off on the last ever time I'm setting foot on the stage. So I hope to see you there. The Cork show, like I've mentioned, we've cancelled because, in all honesty, we couldn't give the tickets away. It was so poor. But Liverpool's always been really good to us, and we've come over, and this show will most likely sell out because it started really well. So if you want to come and see us for the last time, that's where we're going to be. Where else? And also, if you want to join our WhatsApp community, scan that QR code there, and we'll do our best to give you the quickest updates we can, and a few little voice notes and messages in there from me as well. Keep seeing Luis Suarez links, not the original one. Yeah, it's the guy from Almeria, I think it is. Somebody mentioned earlier on. Be an interesting one. Definitely be an interesting one. Right, so let me recap for the people who are coming in, because I do appreciate you joining us. Let me fly through what I've gone through today between the videos and where we're at now. So we started off with Romano's story yesterday to say Napoli remain in active talks for Darwin Nunez. There's a significant gap in valuation, but he's still the top target. Lorenzo Luca deal at advanced stages with Udinese and the player's side, as Napoli can decide to close it at any moment. Again, I think that's Romano doing a club's bidding, trying to make it sound like Liverpool are under pressure. Ultimately, they either pay what Liverpool are asking or they don't get the player. Then Napoli's own, quoting Di Marzio, said Napoli are working on a deal to sign the new striker. They speak about the Luca deal as well. And then they speak about submitting an offer to Liverpool, which has been rejected. The final decision will rest with the president, Aurelio De Laurentiis. But if they get that Osimhen money and they've got the Kvaratskhelia money, well, they can't be crying poor mouth, can they? So then we've got Christian Falk, who said Luis Diaz has informed Bayern Munich he wants to move to the club. Then we had quotes from Luis Diaz saying, at the moment, we're negotiating with Liverpool and all interested parties. I'm calm and happy at Liverpool. I think it's over to try and make the best decision. See, that's horseshit, respectfully. I'm happy at Liverpool, but I'm negotiating with other parties. Which one is it? I don't think it's both. So I think he wants to move away for what it's worth. Liverpool have rejected a €50 million bid for Darwin Nunez from Napoli, said Fabrizio Romano, who were still focused on signing the player as their main target. New offer is expected in the coming days. Then we have Sport over in Spain saying Luis Diaz will tell Liverpool today he wishes to leave Anfield this summer. The winger considers his time in England to be over, although he will not begin negotiations to leave aggressively. Then there was Give Me Sport, who said Newcastle United remain hopeful of winning the race to sign Mark Gay. There was a Miguel Delaney quote that threw Liverpool's name into the mix for Eberechi Eze. Said Eze's preference is understood to be Arsenal should he leave Crystal Palace, although sources close to the situation believe Liverpool may yet activate long-standing interest. Then we've Pepe Sierra saying that Diaz will tell Liverpool management either you renew my contract or let me leave because I have an offer from Bayern and Barcelona. He wants to stay, he wants to improve his contract conditions, but if not, he's going to ask to leave. Then we had Romano speaking about Hugo Ekitike, and he said his future still remains open. From what I'm hearing, the Premier League remains the most likely destination for him. Liverpool is one of the options. Liverpool always have an interest in him. There is interest from more clubs, and the timing of the Darwin Nunez departure will be crucial for his future. Then we had a report that LFC Transfer Room posted saying Newcastle will offer Isak the number 9 jersey. However, there's no guarantee he'll take it. In terms of his future, the interest from Liverpool is real, but they need to generate funds for a deal that could be extremely expensive, a British record of at least £150 million. Marca said Ibrahima Konate has now rejected 2 contract renewal offers from Liverpool and his current deal expires next summer. Then we had the British MPs voting against allowing 10 Premier League games to be broadcast for free. There was a vote of 86 for yes and 340 for no. Georgi Mamardashvili, Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong were part of Liverpool's training today, writes The Echo. We spoke about the young centre-back from Italy, Giovanni Leone. He's one of Italy's biggest prospects, and Liverpool interested in him, 6'4", 18 years of age. Then we had Luis Diaz is aware that there was a chance that Barcelona might not be able to register him in time if he signs for them, so he's requested to add an indemnisation clause in his deal, making him then pay a considerable amount to Diaz if they don't register him. And then we had Graham Bailey saying Liverpool have reached out to Rodrigo Goes' camp with, again, the belief that maybe the money will be there now for Napoli to make a play for Darwin with the sale of Osimhen coming closer. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, we've a few bits we held back for the late night update video as well, which will be out before 11, but we've got about 10 minutes to go. Pretty sure Nkunku will be red. He will. United red, perhaps, but he won't be Liverpool red. Not a chance. Why would we take him? He's absolutely nowhere good enough. Let's be honest about it. He just isn't. And also, if PSG ever flutter the eyelashes, he'll go running back in a heartbeat, and he said so himself. Why will be the last time to do a live show? Because they are incredibly difficult for me to do, is the answer. I go through a really, really tough time ahead of them, preparing for them, and I'm a bundle of nerves, mate. Just wondering, what's the Elmo reference in the background? He's also a legend, by the way. So, right, I have to accompany this with a picture, so bear with me. So, when my son was younger and he was first diagnosed with autism, we brought him over to Florida and we went to the theme parks, as you do. So we went to Busch Gardens, and one of the areas in Busch Gardens, for anybody who's been there will know, is Sesame Street. And there was an Elmo character there at Sesame Street going around in his costume. And my wife is a big Elmo freak, and I mean that sincerely. She adores Elmo. She's just a huge fan of Elmo, has a tattoo of him, just loves him. So she brought Lucas, her son, over to have a photograph with Elmo. And Lucas had some sensory issues around noise at that particular moment and started putting his hands over his ears, as many autistic kids do in these situations. And Elmo, being the fucking legend that he is, did the very same thing as Lucas to make him feel better and put his hands over his ears like this. And as a father, watching that, it nearly brought me to tears. And I was so grateful to whoever the human being was in that Elmo costume that it's never left me. And I still have this photo of it, as you can see there, of my son Lucas with his hands over his ears, and the character in the Elmo costume doing the same thing to make him feel better. And, you know, what can I say? Other than as a father, I greatly appreciated that moment from that human being. So, yeah, that's why Elmo's in the background. We all kind of thought of one thing that we would put in there that kind of speaks about us, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. Tony, how are we, Tony? Said, great to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for your strength to be bringing us to this place, especially through this difficult period. My pleasure, mate, and thank you guys for being here with me as well. Itachi, how are we, bro? Said, losing Diogo, Darwin and Lucho in the same window just doesn't feel right to me. Let's see what happens. I hope at least one of them is staying. Let's be honest, Darwin's not good enough. And tragedy or not, that hasn't changed. He's just not good enough. Diaz's situation is in his own hands. He has the ability to stay at Liverpool if he wants to, and the club aren't kicking him out the door. So, and I throw into the mix, you could probably throw Chiesa in there as well as a potential departure, which leaves us with some work to do. There's no denying that either. Mutz said, that's lovely, mate. Yeah, it meant a lot to me at the time. Because just before that, the year before, we'd also been to Florida, or maybe it was the same trip, actually. It was the same trip, sorry. And I posted another picture of Lucas. We were at SeaWorld this time. And Lucas is fascinated by fish and water. It calms him down. So he never sits still. He's always on the go, bouncing around the place. And we got this lovely photo of him in front of a big aquarium, just calm. And I'd never seen him so serene and calm. And I posted it on Twitter at the time. And I got loads of animal rights people calling me a shit parent and a horrible human being for posting this image of my son happy and content looking at fish. And these people just belittled us as parents, and it made me feel pretty angry. So to then go on to Busch Gardens and have the Elmo moment, it kind of almost came full circle for me, and made me feel good after what was a pretty shit day or two. Yeah, it just felt so unnecessary. Like, I'm just trying to see if I still have the picture. I always get that, like, that was a strange one. I don't understand why people would be like jumping on because your son's having a look at some fish. Yeah, here's the picture. That was the picture there. And I'd never seen him so serene and stand still for so long, and I was just so happy. And I posted that just to, show, look, little dude's calm. And yeah, as I said, people just start being assholes. So thank you, Natalie. Appreciate you. What are your honest thoughts on who else will sign in this window? Not fantasy, but honest opinion. A centre back, I think Mark Gay seems absolutely possible. I really don't know as a forward. Your guess is as good as mine there. The suggestion that somebody made earlier on is probably not out of the realms of possibility either. If Liverpool don't feel the right 9 is there, do they move for the likes of a Rodrigo who can play right across the front line and almost go Paris Saint-Germain on it and not have an out-and-out number 9? I think all possibilities are on the table at the minute. Andrew, thank you, mate. That's really kind of you. Appreciate you, and good night to you as well, bro. Really appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Vert's false 9, maybe Simon's behind, said Jake Richards. Again, I'm easy. I wouldn't. Xavi Simons wouldn't be my first choice, to be honest with you. But again, the club will have a plan, and I just hope that by the end of the window, Arne gets the players that he wants to bring in. And we started the window very well, so I think we've every right to be optimistic that we're going in the right direction there. For all the windows that I've been frustrated about, this has been a window that started really, really well for the club. Mutt said, man, there's nothing more relaxing than looking at fish or fish tanks. Some people are just weird. Look, I get the animal rights side of it as well, but that post was in no way a statement of pro or anti anything. It was, wow, look at my son feeling really calm and fascinated by the water. That's all it was. LFC fan said, Craig, I have autism. Life is hard watching you. It's making me happy. Mate, I have autism. I have Asperger's. I'm on the autism spectrum myself. Only found out at 35. But, I'll be honest and say I was pretty ignorant around all things autism related until my son's diagnosis. Yeah, we live and learn. Fabrizio's just posted that Rodrigo's looking for a European club. I mean, that's the most fucking nothing post I've ever seen in my life. Like, clearly he's not going back to South America, so maybe that just rules out Saudi. I mean, it's sorry, I'm laughing because it's the most fucking nothing post from Romano, which, by the way, he has a habit of. Look, I haven't said that for 2 minutes. Here's the bleeding obvious, because I want interactions. I'll be honest with you, I despise the lad. I fucking hate him. I just do. He's good for information, by all accounts, but I just don't like him one bit. I don't. Eva said, Craig, I hope you're okay. I'm happy the streams are back. Keep up the good work. Watching you brings a smile to my face. Thank you. Great show on the PSG kind of formation. I reckon Konate, Diaz, Nunez, Elliott to be sold. Gay, Haddo, Rodrigo, and either Gordon or Isak. Second name would be ideal, but we need some homegrown. I think, yeah, the suggestion earlier on from, and it wasn't my idea, by the way, somebody in the chat mentioned it earlier on. Where is it? This gentleman here said, I can see us go for Rodrigo if Isak is impossible. He could play centre forward a little like PSG played this season. So, credit where it's due. That was that gentleman's idea. Appreciate you, Itachi, mate. Thank you. Right, folks, I'm going to say goodnight and go record this update video. So give me about 20-25 minutes and I'll get that out, and hopefully I can fill you guys in on anything you may have missed out on. But tomorrow, I'll see you back here, same time, same place. And thank you again to everyone joining us tonight. Appreciate your support over the last week as well as your support for each other. So we'll see you tomorrow. Much love.